In our interview, I spoke to Mr. Eze Onyekbere of the Center for Social Justice, and he talked about the 2018 budget estimates and its implementation. Mr. Eze Onyekbere, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Well, there's been reactions now to the 2018 budget as proposed by the president. A lot of people see this as a huge mark away from what we want, or that it would not meet the objectives of Nigerians. But really, what do you think about this, especially as what was allocated for capital expenditure?
Well, I think the budget on its own need not meet all the aspirations of Nigerians. It's not a big budget, although we are talking about 8.6 trillion in nominal terms. If you convert it to a more stable currency like the dollar, you're talking about 28 billion. If you use the 305, if you use the street value of 360, you are talking about 24 billion. So dedicating 30% of it for capital expenditure should be a step in the right direction, but that's not all. We've had this dedication of 20-something% all over the years, but the more important thing is how much of that do we implement in real terms, So even if we're able to start from that really small 30%, because considering our infrastructure and developmental challenges, we should be doing more for capex. But can we even do the 30% as proposed? Because look at the 2017 budget. We proposed over 2 trillion for capital expenditure, and in November, which is a month before the end of the year, we've only done 450 billion, which is roughly about 20% of the proposal, which we all praise to say, 2016 was 6.0 something. Everybody said the highest budget in our history. 2017, 7.44. Say, the highest budget in our history. 2018, 8.6. Everybody shouting, the highest in our history. But how much of it have we actually implemented, and how much of it will we really implement? That's the bigger question and the big challenge.
So when we talk about consolidation, what do you make of it?
Yeah, what exactly are you consolidating? That's the question. Are you consolidating lack of budget implementation? Are you consolidating the massive poverty? Are you consolidating the exchange rate that is hitting through the roof? I think it should be about deconsolidating all those bad things and then renewing in a new paradigm shift to bring about the new things we need, the new transformation, the new change under whatever name we call it. So we've not reached the place where we begin to consolidate. What are we consolidating? Nothing is really there on the foundation to consolidate.
So you see, well, the government plans to borrow at least over 1.6 trillion to meet up its deficit. What do you think of this borrowings? I know many have spoken against frequent borrowings and how we need to cut down on this. And of course, with a benchmark of 305, is all of this feasible given, again, the Niger Delta crisis?
Now, that brings us, before we even talk about the borrowing, that brings us to the revenue framework.
Yes.
Is the revenue framework built on realism? Is it empirically informed? Is it in such a way that we can realize it? I have my doubts about the revenue framework. Currently, we are doing 1.9 million barrels a day. And the 2017 projection was 2.2. We didn't meet it. We suddenly now shifted it to 2.3. So what is it that is going to happen between now and January or February next year for us to add an additional 400,000 barrels per day? So if we cannot meet it, that means from day one, we are losing 400,000 barrels per day times $45. You check it out and how much of it we will miss. Then beyond that oil revenue, and moreover, before I even go away from there, that we were allowed to be doing 2.2, OPEC allowed us, was because they felt that we were in recession and we've gone through a bad patch. So they allowed that in January and renewed it in September. There is no guarantee that OPEC will continue allowing us, since we've already come out of recession, to keep increasing or to say we're doing 2.3 when others are being given lesser quota. Now, moving away from that, you see that there's also the 500 and something billion from recoveries we're expecting. Yeah. As of June, this year, for the one for 2017 was also 500 and something. We haven't recovered anything. You hear EFCC do a lot of propaganda, but how much of it is in terms of cash that is available that is going to be put into the budget?
Not yet known to the public.
Not yet known. And as of June, nothing has come in for the 2017 budget. I don't know the exact state now, because from the figures I have seen, there's nothing that has come in from recovery. And it's one of those things we're also planning for 2018. You have the federal government's independent revenue which underperformed as of September by 74%. And we are putting up the same figure, around the same figure we did last year. So if by the end of September, October, your independent revenue, you're expecting close to 800 billion, underperformed by 74%, why are you still repeating it as a source of revenue? Okay? And so some of these things, the ones that are saying they are going to dispose some assets, okay, they're all expectancies, which nobody is sure they may come in, because even the circumstances that will crystallize them are not necessarily in the hands of the government of the federation. So what we should have done is to look at these revenue sources that are not so sure, remove them from the budget so that we have a realistic estimate of the revenue that will come, because that revenue will inform the expenditure side, because expenditure cannot hang without revenue. If those monies materialize, you can bring a supplementary budget to appropriate them. So it's overtly optimistic, and then we're also talking of borrowing. Now look at the 2017 budget. We were supposed to borrow some money. It was only last month that the request for borrowing was sent to the National Assembly for approval. And of course they've sat on it, they've not approved it up till now. Assuming they were to approve it now, when will you go and negotiate the borrowing and bring it to implement the budget? You recall that the Eurobond we raised to implement the 2016 budget was only raised in February 2017. And before the money could come in, probably around April or late March, April. So in essence, I am seeing that we have not done what we are supposed to do. Between the executive and the legislature, they've not been clean enough to be able to, say we are going to borrow. You find out the source from which you are borrowing on time. You get approval on time, so that the money will come in at the time you need it. For instance, this is the time to start talking of approval of a borrowing plan. This is the time for the Ministry of Finance and Budget and Planning to start looking at the people with the likely sources where they're going to get the money, so that you get the money in December latest. It will be ready for the budget to start running on the 1st of January 2018.
What's your take on the plan, to ensure that the budget runs from January to December? Because a lot of people see this sort of zero budget as something that should, that would help us, in nearest future.
The help is that the budget was presented a little bit early.
Yes.
In November, early November, earlier than the December we've had it, because the last 2 years were just a few days before the lawmakers vacated. In fact, in the last one, 2015 was 22nd, the other one was 15th.
Yes.
So they simply received the budget and went for Christmas and New Year vacation. Now, what it helps us to do is that they can start working on it now, but it will not be possible for them to pass it before they go for New Year vacation, because the MTEF on which the budget is based has not been passed. So they have to consider all those parameters, pass it before they go into the budget. If you look at the trajectory of how long they've taken to pass the budget in the National Assembly in the last 2-3 years, you discover the last one was December, it didn't get passed until May. The other one didn't get passed until around April, May as well. So it may take roughly about 4 months. But that shouldn't be. This one, they can cut it out by the time they take November, take some part of December. They can come back. As soon as they come back, late January, they give us the budget. So
how does this help the ordinary Nigerian?
Yeah, it will help, because you have some certainty, which the law and constitution expected. We had a Financial Year Act and Section 318 of the Constitution, which had proposed that the financial year should be a certain period between January and December, or any other period that the National Assembly defines. But that is not a leeway for arbitrariness. So what the law says that if you don't like January to December, you can now say it is April to April or April to May. It must be certain. It shouldn't be different in 2015. 2016 is another thing, 2017. Because part of the challenge we've had, what is creating this confusion, is that we don't like to tell ourselves the truth. When we did the 2017 budget, it came into force around late June. You know what? The financing framework of that budget anticipated that money should start accruing from January 1. So all the crude oil that was sold between January to June when it came into place, all the VAT money that was shared, all the customs and excise, they did not quarantine it. It wasn't kept in a separate bank account to say, oh, we are going to use it for 2017 budget. It was used to implement the 2016 budget. And so you started 2017 budget in June, and you've only done roughly 5-6 months. And that's what you have. So let's tell ourselves the truth. They said they're going to implement not more than 40% of the capital budget, because they will pay salaries, they will do overheads, they will pay debts. So if they can get up to 40%, they've also promised they will roll the others over into the 2018 budget. If they can do that, everybody will be happy. But they must ensure that the money is there to implement the budget.
Thank you so much for your time on Dateline Abuja.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Well, thank you for your mails as always. Keep sending in your views and comments using the email address and Twitter handle on your screen. Also, be sure to share anything happening within your locality. Now, don't you forget, you can view the program on youtube.com/channelsweb/videos. Thank you for watching this week. I'm Gloria Umezuke. See you again.